Okay, item number 2 is an application for a certificate of appropriateness at 31 Bond Street in the NoHo Historic District Extension, Block 529, Lot 25. This is a Renaissance Revival style store and loft building designed by De Lemos and Cordes and built in 1888 to 89. And this is an application to alter the ground floor, install storefront infill, replace windows, construct a new rear facade and rooftop addition, and excavate the cellar. This was initially presented on July 22nd.
Good morning, Carousel of Landmark staff. 31 Bond Street was presented before the commission in August of this year. No action was taken. The 6-story building is located on the south side of the street with Lafayette to the west and the Bowery to the east in the NoHo Historic District Extension. The proposal presented in August included the following: cutting back the rear facade, and constructing a new facade that would be visible from a gated alley on Lafayette Street. At the roof, replacing the existing visible bulkhead and water tower, and constructing a new 1-story addition with 2-story bulkheads and mechanical equipment. And at the street facade, replacing the storefront with existing storefront with new storefront, but retaining the design of the fan-shaped transom windows and installing a glass canopy. The commissioners discussion focused on reducing the visibility of the rooftop addition, as well as incorporating some horizontal and vertical elements at the rear to articulate the historic fenestration patterns. And the project team is here to present their revisions in detail.
We'll reopen the hearing. Let's go ahead.
Thank you. Commissioners had questions and asked us to reconsider 2 main aspects of the project in the hearing in July. And those were the bulk of the mechanical penthouse, and the texture and expression of the back facade. Starting with the mechanical penthouse, we have significantly reduced the expression and bulk of the penthouse. In terms of the expression, we've replaced what had been a cementitious board with reclaimed brick, extending the party wall as it is currently expressed. There was a concern about an existing chimney that we were bracing that had become somewhat prominent in the new design. We've since found that we could lower that chimney by about 9 feet and still have it meet code for the chimney that exists. And we've taken mechanical equipment that was behind this screen and put it on the opposite side of the roof where it is no longer visible, on top of what had been a glass skylight, which is now just a regular roof. So by removing that mechanical equipment, we've lowered the bulkhead through this zone, and those are the primary changes to the bulkhead. In terms of the back facade, I'll put this up just to have it for reference, and then let's go to the back facade. Commissioners expressed a concern about the expression and texture of the back and asked for more detail and a more granular expression. So we've moved from this elevation to this current proposal, where we've introduced spandrel panels made of field-formed 16-ounce copper, flat-seam copper cladding. And we've introduced more reclaimed brick in the back facade to subdivide the facade into the 2 elements. And we've reduced the amount of what's called Opalux. It's glass laminated with copper mesh in between to just a single panel. And those are our primary changes to the back facade.
All right, thank you. Are there questions for the applicant or the design team? And any questions? I know that I think there were some commissioners who commented on the bulkhead as viewed from Bond Street, and I know that Commissioner Bland had some recommendations. I think they've actually responded to some of your ideas in terms of incorporating the existing bulkhead with the new enlargement.
Let me just comment on that. I think you recall my comments more than I do, but I do remember this proposal. And I want to compliment the architect for taking the spirit of what we said, but not every living detail, and try to work it out. I think that can be a problem here when commissioners are very detailed in how to solve the problem sometimes. This was a very good proposal before, it was just too visible. So I think the spirit of the original design is still there, and I hope you're still proud of the building, because I think it's a very good building. But yet it now meets, I think, in my judgment at least, the appropriateness standard easily and happily.
Right, and just one other comment about this new proposal. I think it's very much, it does retain the spirit of what was originally proposed. I think it very sensitively incorporates some of the suggestions that the commissioners made at that time. I know in terms of the visibility from Bond Street, the idea of moving some of the bulk towards, I guess it's the western side of the building, really does help to reduce the impact of the bulk where it's most visible, which is from the east side. Just going to the, you want something, say something on this? Yes, yes.
Last time, the thing that really struck me as a very helpful rendering was from the view down the alley. Do you have that revised? I didn't notice it in the package.
Right, and just to point out, again, I think in terms of the rear, I know that Michael, Commissioner Goldblum had some concerns about that, and do you have that view?
So we
We have a rendered elevation of the revision.
Right.
That was
Not
original,
3D.
and that's proposed. 3D we did not revise, but we certainly could revise.
No. Looks better to me.
I think, again, it seems to reflect your concern about
Yeah.
breaking down the mass
Scale.
to give some scale to
I
it.
think in line with what Fred was saying, I think it's a good example of how, given an open-ended problem, people come to find their own solution that works with their design while achieving the general intent.
Okay. Are there other comments or questions on this? All right, in that case, we can close the hearing and second it. And we can read the resolution. Commissioner Moore, would you like to read that?
Sure. That's number 2. To the issue of 31 Bond Street, Certificate of Appropriateness. Application is to alter the ground floor, install storefront infill, replace windows, construct a new rear facade and rooftop addition, and excavate the cellar. I recommend approval, finding that the existing rear yard extension has no significant architectural features which would be lost or damaged by its removal, that cutting back the existing rear wall and extension will increase the size of the rear yard, that while the proposed alterations to the rear of the building will be visible from Lafayette Street through a gated alleyway, the proposed modern design will be expressed with the historic building materials palette and will blend in with other modern rear yard treatments that exist within the block. That the proposed rear facade design will articulate and recall the scale and proportions of the historic fenestration through horizontal copper bands and brick masonry piers, that the existing highly visible 2-story rooftop bulkhead with water tower will be replaced with a new rooftop addition that will be set back further from the front facade and will only be visible over the secondary facades, that the height of the rooftop addition will not overwhelm the building, that the visible extensions of the existing brick masonry chimneys and new brick masonry chimney over the primary facade will not call undue attention to themselves, that the brick masonry and copper cladding will help the addition blend into the roofscape and recede from view, that the proposed storefront replacement will retain the historic cast iron piers and replicate the wood fan-shaped transoms, thereby preserving these significant features, that the configuration, materials, and details of the proposed doors will be consistent with doors historically found at buildings of this age, style, and type, that photo documentation reveals historic precedent for a canopy at one storefront bay, that the design and material of the glass canopy is simple and utilitarian and consistent with the character of the building and streetscape, and that the excavation and underpinning for the subcellar will be done in compliance with Department of Buildings regulations under the supervision of a licensed professional engineer or registered architect to protect the building's facades and the adjacent buildings.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? This application's been approved.